All right, good evening, everybody. Today is August 13th. It's the monthly meeting of the school building committee. First item on the agenda is a presentation from Vertex on the budget.
Okay. So we threw a lot of numbers at you. And so, where we are, we're at the conclusion of the process. At the last meeting, we kind of reviewed the FF&E budget. Since then, we've collected the final construction cost estimates as well as the technology budget. And I know Doug's here as well from Advanced, which is our technology consultant. So if you do have specific questions related to that, he is available to answer it. I don't know, Doug, if you had any other words you wanted to say specifically or just I didn't ask you that ahead of time, so. But in your packet was the technology budget. He's worked with the school IT to assemble that, and the $1.2 million number and the backup was included in that, along as a description of what's in there. Also included in your packet and related to that is a proprietary list. So, because you're a public entity, you have to vote to make things proprietary. It's actually a vote the school committee will also have to take because they're an elected body and you're an appointed body. And so the first thing would be to, when we get to that tonight, to get a vote out of this committee to go forward with those proprietary items, and then we'd bring that to the school committee at their joint meeting we have scheduled for the end of the month. And I can kind of show everybody on the screen what that is because it's mostly related to technology. Here we go. So, your project, we want competition, right? So competition is good, but there are certain things like technology that make sense to bolt on to your existing infrastructure, if you will. And so that's what this is. And so what you see in the screen in front of you is the technology items that are recommended by the middle school department to be proprietary so that those items can build off of the existing network. You only have two schools in town. It makes 100% sense to make sure they both function on the same system instead of having two parallel systems. So the school department is requesting that these items be proprietary, whether it's through the security vendor or through the technology vendor. And this list in front of you here, we would be looking for a vote of the committee tonight. If you have specific questions about why these are or the value of that, Doug can answer those portions of that. And so with that, I'll ask if there are any specific questions. Okay. So,
Jeff?
Rich, I would like a vote at some point tonight. It doesn't have to be right now. We can go through the tech budget itself if you'd like, and then take a
Jeff?
vote. Yes.
I have a question. It's Diane. Are these the specs that the police and fire chiefs reviewed for safety and security?
I will say these are the names that Pam rattled off in that meeting. So I believe the answer is affirmative to that. We can, and if it isn't Diane, we can always revote it.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure this all is. I remember these names being sent out at that meeting. The MSBA wants to be notified when you guys make things proprietary because it takes away competition. So we have to submit this now. If there was an adjustment or a vendor change between now and a year and a half from now, whenever you bid the job, you could always adjust those individual votes.
Okay. Thank you.
The technology write-up that was included in your packet, not to make you dizzy, talked about structured cabling, just a kind of description of what's in the number, and including counts and setups per classrooms, what you'd see in a typical classroom, such as the public addresser speaking, call buttons, clocks, data outlets, wire, infrastructure, wireless access, technology in terms of the head end, just kind of gives a narrative description. The data communication, which are those Juniper switches that have been requested by the town, et cetera. And then it comes down at the bottom there. You see the detail breakdown. This is the higher level detail. Again, we're only at conceptual, right, in terms of schematic. It gives you a count of equipment and then the proprietary item or not, a placeholder in many cases, such as Chromebooks or iMacs, which are not included in this one, but student Chromebooks are included in this one. And so 3D printers and a few other elements. This is rolls up to about $102 million. Again, the building committee and the school department will make final say on these down the road. This is for the funding purposes to make sure you've got adequate coverage on whatever tomorrow's technology is. And keep in mind, we bid the job in a year from now in terms of construction, but technology would actually be 2 years out for bidding those purposes. So that's, why you have that set up the way it is.
Jeff,
Yep.
I believe you said 102 million. I almost fell off my seat.
1.2, sorry.
1.2.
Sorry, 1.2. Great correction, Jim. Great correction.
We are taped here, you know.
That is
What did that guy say?
adding zeros at the end. This one had decimal points. That threw me off. He went down to the 50 cents. I rounded up to the nearest dollar when I put it in the budget.
So this is something that is not proprietary.
Most of these are, some of them are in there. So some of that server head end equipment, this first $50,000 line item has those proprietary items in it. But the Chromebooks and the access points and a lot of these other things would be biddable and not proprietary, as well as the interactive, non-interactive displays and any other conference TVs or equipment and things like that.
But this differentiation is standard operating procedure, right, in these projects? This is
Yeah,
like-
this is the kind of level breakdown you'd see at this point, kind of totals the number of students in classrooms and kind of puts together an assembly of costs.
I have a question about the VoIP stuff.
Yeah,
Is it really a PBX?
Doug.
Yes, hi, Diane. I could speak to that. PBX is an older terminology, but it's a voice over IP system. There will be a system in the school itself, and the best way to describe that is a PBX. It's a voice over IP PBX, though.
So it's not VoIP cloud-based,
No.
total. Why?
What's
Why
that
would
again?
you go from,
Why is it not cloud-based?
yes,
I suppose it could be cloud-based. I think that's probably a final decision that we'll make a few years from now. Right now, again, to Jeff's point, it's a very bird's eye view. I think it's a per unit item, $450 per unit, and my point was that would include some head end costs, and it could be an IP PBX.
okay, I'd like to talk more about that, but we'll do this offline.
Sure.
Okay. So the other items that are new to the building committee in terms of costs is we had two cost estimates, one through FM Fogarty, which is Vertex's subconsultant, and one through the designer, which is PM&C. Both were included in the packet. Traditionally, we typically carry kind of the designer's estimate, which is PM&C, but there's $1 million delta here, and since this is an ad reno, both Vertex and TAPE think we should err on the high side between the two estimators, and so we're recommending to carry AM Fogarty as the budget of record to go to town meeting. And so that comes out to currently $97,784,101 before we talk about alternates. The high level breakdown of that is that from a high level, the cost that you're spending on the addition and the renovation, are close. You're spending about $28 million in the addition and another $34 million in the renovation before you do the markups, escalations, and allowances and contingencies. About $6.5 million in site work. And then there's an exterior shed component. So we've got a placeholder there for about $300,000 to, fit that space out and build that. Right now, a lot of the storage that John has is all being demolished, and the zones of the building that are being demolished, including some large sheds that exist today in garages, and so we're replacing that. The demo and hazmat costs are up, included in the renovation portion of this, so that's buried in this reno number. That's about $3 million on the number, I think, is from the demo and abatement and the backup cost. This is a CM at risk job, and at this stage of the project, we always carry a 10% design contingency, so that's about $6.8 million to fill in the gaps, and to deal with permitting issues and things that arise throughout the design process. The CM, when they competitively bid the project, will recommend a CM contingency, which is usually between 2 to 2.5%, and they get to propose that, and so we've carried that at the higher side of the 2.5%. Escalation, we're assuming 2 years of escalation and about 3% a year or so that's $4.5 million. And then general conditions, which is the CM's labor, their staffing and office costs to have trailers on site, is about $5.9 million for the 32 months of the job. And then phasing costs and general requirements make up another $6 million or so. On top of that, we have insurances, bonds, and the overhead and profit. That all rolls up to $97,784,000. which comes at a very reasonable $666 a square foot, which I'll circle back to when we get to the total project budget, as that is below a lot of the MSBA thresholds and a good reason for the reimbursement going up. There are alternates that we come up with along the way that we discussed at various meetings with the building committee or the working group. The first one had to do with adding security glazing. We had done that as a breakout cost. The police and fire, or I should say police, have requested that. So I wanted to, put that back to the committee tonight to get your formal authorization to fold that into the project. I did want to isolate that just so you understood the premium associated with hardening all the windows on the ground level as well as some of the doors. Alternate number 2 is triple glazed windows. That one did get folded up already. That's to try and get some of those additional points into the project and to do triple pane glazing that's in the number above. There was a little bit of replacing in the flooring of the high school that we did not price out because it really wasn't drawn, but we talked about the high school floor is essentially remove and replace as necessary, right? It's still going to be a VCT floor in a lot of ways. The new middle school will have all new flooring, but overall in the hallways of the existing high school where we're not touching space, we're looking to keep the bricks on those corridor walls as well as the flooring that happens below that. And, Chris, you can fact check me if or Steve, if I'm misstating any of those elements. At one point, we were looking at an alternate to the sewer system. And so right now the sewer actually comes out of the building in 2 locations. It faces the Clyde Brown and then actually pumps up to kind of get over the hillside there. And so where we're connecting the new addition, we actually need a pump chamber to get up there. One alternate was, what if we ran it down the Clyde Brown bus loop driveway and out to Spring Street and connected up Main Street a different way? Would that save money of not having to do the pump station? Turns out we end up needing most of that piping anyway. So the net of that ended up being a $140,000 add. So the project team is not recommending to pursue that, but we did have pricing associated with that. There currently is an acid waste neutralization system within the building. There is an option to not do that and do more of a, and I don't want to, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong on the scope of this, but there's a way to do it more off-site disposal, if you will. So this comes with a savings on upfront capital costs, but it comes with an ongoing in perpetuity maintenance operating cost. So, we don't think it's a good idea to take it out at this point. It's a conversation that can still be had with the school department and the science department and John to see how he wants to do it. But taking this credit of the 152 would have more maintenance and operating costs associated with dealing those chemicals as they're used on the property. So I don't know if Chris or Steve, you want to comment any further on the alternates or if there are anything else you would like to add about that. No, you guys are good.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Jeff, you said.
Yeah, so I think, in response to the public safety's request, I think the committee should give direction today to incorporate, alternate number 1, and we will get this cleaned up and revised and back to you, if that works for the committee.
Yep. Well, that's fine. I think we talked about it. It makes sense. We did it at the Clyde Brown. Is there any other discussion from the group on that?
I don't understand number 5, why we would take this out at this point.
We're not gonna.
I'm saying not. So the only one we're suggesting you add in is alternate number 1, and we leave the rest of it just where it's priced.
Thank
The
you.
MSBA does ask all projects to submit a value engineering list. So should you be over budget, what is something you could live without, right? And so this element will land on that list, right, as an alternative. Like, should funding become an issue in the future, we can look at other means of dealing with the chemicals, as well as changing some finishes or making some other modifications to the project. They just need to know there's a path. Nothing you have to take today, but there has to be a path forward, which is, just good design practice in general.
Got it. Thank you.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, if there's,
So-
well, want to do that right now, Jeff? We could just, since we're talking about it, so I make a motion that we make sure that we include the alternate for the security glaze film for $353,000 and $873. 353,873.
You just say include alternate 1 and it's sufficient.
I could do it that way too. That'll be a lot easier. All right, I make a motion that we include alternate at 1.
Second,
All right, motion's been made and seconded, and I'll do I'm gonna do a voice vote. Diane,
aye.
Al,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passed. Actually, do I have any of the school gang here?
Nope.
Okay, all right, so the motion passed.
Making sure I didn't miss any, before I jump into the budget, just want to make sure I didn't miss any other things I wanted to go over. Those tech proprietary, we still gotta take the proprietary vote too. I don't know if you want to do that one now or.
No, that's fine. Why don't we do that? So I make a motion that the specific items that were
As
aforementioned presented are that we include those as proprietary items.
Second.
All right, motion's been made in second. Diane,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Thank you.
Correct. All right, so I'm gonna go the deeper dive now. Stop me along the way. There's a lot to digest as it relates to the total project budget. And so here we go. All right, so the total project budget, I think some of you may have seen this before from past presentations and past projects. This is the MSBA's form. At the very top, first set of gray bars, I'm gonna use these gray, horizontal bars as a description. So feasibility study agreement. This is the $1.3 million that you've already appropriated. And so, it's important to keep in mind that when we take our vote motion later. So that's already set in stone. Legal fees is the standard 35 grand I kind of throw in there. You did make us earn that with the last project where we had a challenge at town meeting and we actually spent more than that, but typically you don't. If you want me to carry a little more and you're afraid of our same neighbor again, we can kind of goose that element up to 50 grand, but I don't think you're gonna kind of need more than that. But that is an item we could kind of stick some dollars in from the contingency. We do have a lot of contingency at the bottom, which we'll get to. Owner's project management to the next 6 rows are our proposed fee. I'll have a fee proposal that I'm gonna get over to Rich to look at this week. This kind of breaks it down into the various phases of design takes about a year to go through design development, construction documents, and then bidding. And then we got the 3 years worth of construction administration. And then, for Vertex, we're involved for the next 5 years with you guys. So then there's a couple of years of closeout even beyond that. I did want to talk a little bit about extra services today to the full committee. And so one of the things that's out there is we're proposing carrying a sub-consultant called Interval Data System, so IDS. One of the things they do is they fill some gaps that commissioning does not provide. We're reminding the committee that the Mass School Building Authority provides a commissioning agent for both building envelope and MEP. That's provided to you as part of the program. You don't pay for that, but it does come with limitations. They kind of work on a specific number of quantity inspections. So you will have the option to procure more from them should you want additional protections and evaluation. That kind of plays in a little more with projects that are very sustainably forward thinking with geothermal and things like that you guys aren't currently doing. There is another number down here for other administrative costs. We're carrying 300,000. That would pick up, that additional commissioning should you want to use it. That would pick up other traditional administrative costs provided by the town or salaries or things that are charged to the overall project. So that all comes out of that kind of administrative cost budget. But there's $150,000 that we're proposing as a placeholder here for extra services for IDS. And so what IDS is, they're a data-driven thing. This is focused more on the major renovations, and then the middle school itself, as well as all your mechanical systems. So they get on board with the design team and help them fine tune the design so that you have the right amount of points to track data after you open the building. And so then they give a roadmap to John to help fine tune it. So for the first year and then years beyond, John and his subsequent counterparts are able to track the building in real live data and understand which portions of the building are outperforming itself or too hot or too cold, and then dial the utility usage up or down. So that's a service that's available for consideration by the building committee It's a sub-consultant we use. We've been using it on all of our MSBA jobs the last 4 or 5 years. We see a lot of value in it. We really think the owner likes that additional insurance. It comes after the job has been turned over and the commissioning people kind of go away. We really drill down in the data after that. So that's an optional service, but something that's available. And if the number's high, we can always kind of squeeze that down and tailor it to either just some upfront design, some CA, or just the post-occupancy stuff, however you guys want to tailor it. Some of the items are just miscellaneous. We're carrying one cost estimate, assuming you're getting a CM on board. We might provide one check estimate at the beginning just to keep them honest. I carried about 75 grand for permitting, so that's your third-party consultants in your town. You outsource the electrical and plumbing inspectors, at least you did on the last job. So we paid them on a per inspection basis, and then this pays for the sub-consultants to planning board and Concom when they do peer review. So that's that number. Owner's insurance used to be dirt cheap. That was great because the cost of building used to be cheaper. So back when you did Clyde Brown, it used to be like $1 a square foot. So you would have paid 45 grand. Now it's dramatically up because the cost of construction is up. So last couple of jobs, that's kind of come in at 250,000. The problem with your town and other public entities is Maya and I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, but Maya, MIAA is your insurer. Once you start a major project, they don't want to hold your policy. So it's not that you're insuring the addition, you're actually insuring the entirety of the building on this policy. So, I put in 350, could be a little more, could be a little less. So, it's a reasonable number. We could make it 400,000, but again, I have some money in contingency we're going to talk about at the very end. So we can move money around at the end if we feel we want to goose a few of these up. The rest of this is TAPA's. Next section is design. And so there's about $9 million worth of their fee. So this is all their sub-consultants in a full design service turnkey with their engineers, their civil team, their MEP team, their structural team, all that. And so they've got a proposal into us. We're going to review that as well with Rich and provide comments back. So both with Vertex and with TAPA, these are ceilings, right? So, the only thing is it may come down as part of the final negotiation. Construction testing, that's just some exploratory work if you want to do that. The big two numbers in this bucket are hazmat. So you are going to abate the building as we go around. So there's an extended period of monitoring as we get rid of some of the asbestos and other remaining contaminants in the building. And then geotech and geoenvironmental, if we've got to ship off soil, we have to test that soil before it goes away. So this is the cost to do some of that soil testing, as well as compaction monitoring while you do the foundation for the existing building, the addition to the existing building, as well as the parking lots. So we got another 250,000 there. Subsequent site survey for some areas we didn't pick up in the original survey, and then a traffic study, about $95,000. That's to get through planning and permitting, as well as potentially a post-occupancy study if we want to tweak a few things on the back end. And again, this is a not to exceed budget for the next 5 years. So some of these numbers may jump out at people, but we're setting caps on these elements. And like Clyde Brown, the intent is to obviously not use them all. CM, you're going to bring them on board. They're going to be on board for about a year. So we carried about $350,000. Unlike a new build where they do less services, they're really going to come with a very detailed phasing plan here and be a partner in the permitting process. So, we've given them a reasonable fee of $350. That's kind of the going rate. A recording fee if we need to change anything. That's just miscellaneous.
Can I ask, Jeff, can I ask a quick question? Why do you need a traffic study? This building has been sitting there.
Because when the planning board comes through, we typically do is ask for a traffic study if there's any changes to the patterns. So that's.
Oh, okay, because there
That's
are
why
changes.
if there's no, I mean, we could do it, we would send it to Beta.
Okay,
Or our consulting engineers, and they'd say, if they look at it and say, hey, you're not changing anything, we don't have to do a traffic study. If they say, hey, it looks like you guys are switching some stuff around,
okay,
that's
got
the
it.
only reason.
It
why.
also includes the projections. Like right now, your enrollment's going back up. I mean, obviously it was higher, I'm sure, in the 70s or 80s and all that, but there was a lot
Right.
of parents driving back then. So, now you have a different enrollment projected than what you have today. So it's a baseline and it's a requirement of the planning board in all
Okay.
towns. But we could knock that number down, right? If we don't think there's a need for a post occupancy, we could take 30 grand or so out of that number to tighten things up. The next major section is construction costs. So, all these yellow bars here are just a breakup of that AM Fogarty. We pull all those costs over to this tab here, you'll see that same familiar 97,784,000. We're going to add that 350 in there that we just authorized with alternate number one. So the net of that is your construction costs are like $98.1 million or $98.2 million once we fold all that math together. And so that'll be the number that's included in the overall budget. Utility fees. So there's a couple things in this number here. It's kind of utility back charges. So you're going to need a new electrical service for the addition. So there's money associated with bringing in that new feed. There's also your photovoltaics on your roof. So Rich and I worked with town council and Bob Weiss to try and make heads or tails of the existing PV array contract the town has. So we have to pay for the lost production of downtime of taking those panels off while we renovate the roof and the building. We'd also have to pay for the labor to take it off and put it back up, and then the storage if it's off for more than a couple of weeks and protect that. So there's about 150,000, 159,000 of that is the downtime charges of taking the array off and all that, and then there's some other labor associated with that, and then about $200,000 for the connection to the existing building or for the new addition with those new services and things like that. A little on the high side, but you never know where that's going with utilities. I really can't control them. Another place we could tighten it up a little bit if you need to, but it's a reasonable number. Testing and inspection, 250 is reasonable because it's mostly a renovation with a third new and 2/3 reno. Mailing and moving. So this is really moving costs. I carried 200,000. That's a large number for moving, but we're doing multiple moves. We have a lot of summer slammers. We need to quickly get all the furniture and everything out of the way, let the contractor renovate the space, move all the furniture back, do it 2 summers and then 2 moves. So there's a lot of dollars associated with that move management piece, as well as the furniture recycling. Should you want to take it, it would come out of that bucket as well. Another area we could kind of push or pull a little bit, but that's the overall number. FF&E and technology. So you have an FF&E budget, which you reviewed at your last meeting. I included it now in your packet. There was also an option to do some value engineering, to reuse some of the existing furniture. You could opt to take that $69,000 now and knock that down by the $69,000, or leave it in and postpone that decision for 2 years from now, and you've seen the final condition of that furniture, and then decide at that point whether you want to replace it or not. And then this is, I guess I pulled the wrong number. This is sorry, rather this budget. There we go. Yeah, the $1.2 million number on technology. I had the wrong one pulled up right there. So that's the number that we pulled off of Doug's technology thing. So that's 1.2 million. And so, we've punched in all the ineligible costs. So you add all that stuff up, that the hard cost of the project is 117 million. Because the building committee has done a very tight job, right? You've asked us to really only replace what's necessary, to to reuse things that have long life left in them, like the hallway bricks and tiles, to keep structure where possible. And then we looked at the new addition. We said, where could we get more efficient? We looked at the comments from the MSBA. You chose to reduce the gymnasium to make it all eligible in terms of the square footage. The amount of square footage, the ineligible cost drop. You're at 11 million of that 117. So that's amazing, right? That you're in this good of a position. With that, we then have your reimbursement rate. So we have your starting 53.3%. We have 4.3% in terms of incentive points. And that's made up of the score they've given the middle school department of 1.4 plus, let me go to the sheet to explain the backup here. Right here. So in the gray, let me see if you guys can see this. In this section over here, you've been given a maintenance score out of 0 out of 2 of 1.4 in terms of how they rate your maintenance of your buildings. I think on Clyde Brown, you were 1.38, so they ticked you up a little bit. So John's been doing a good job. You got to thank him moving the needle. If you take the straight math about what's being renovated to the total construction of the project at the end, I think you may end up getting 3.15 percentage points from an MSBA reimbursement. I'm showing 2.95 to be conservative now, just based on not wanting to publish a number here that goes to the public that's beyond that. So I put a little bit hair less at 2.95. That rounds up to the 4.35, and that gets carried on to your base socioeconomic rate. So you're at 57.88 of all eligible project costs. At the end of the day, that may be closer to 58 even, if that remaining 0.2 comes back to be favorable for us. what that does is that 57.8 gets multiplied by the hard costs and then the contingencies. So in the construction contingencies, on top of everything above that we've talked about tonight, we're showing essentially a 7.5% change order contingency for construction. That comes out to $7.3 million, which is a lot of money. And then a soft cost contingency of about 2% on top of the total project cost, which ends up just shy of $2 million. So these elements deal with the $2 million deal with overruns for permitting or FF&E or additional consulting costs or insurance overruns or any of those items that I talked about that are not construction cost would come out of this $2 million. So that seems like a reasonable number to carry moving forward. The 7.3 is a little high, right? If you were doing a new construction, you would carry 5%. When you're doing an ad reno and you get to hazmat and abatement and phasing, we carry a 7.5%. I can certainly nudge that number down. I think ultimately I might move a couple 100,000 of it up to a few of the other line items we talked about today and bring that closer to 7 million. But overall, I'm very happy with the number. I think it's a conservative number. I don't think you're going to spend it. I think you're going to give money back. If the committee felt they wanted a lower number to bring to town meeting, there is room to trim that up a little bit and get to the bottom line. So the net of the total project budget right now as it stands is 127,096,3356. And so that's the number that's in front of the committee for consideration, for discussion, and for approval. I think ultimately I would suggest, a hair below 127 always sounds better since it's only about 100 grand. And so I'd recommend we take 100 grand out of that construction contingency line item and kind of bring a number forward to the public that's 127 million essentially. But that's the discussion point that I want to bring back to the committee. And the last point I want to make is that really the way this is tracking right now, and a testament to the hard work everybody's done here, is that it's looking like a 50-50 split. That the MSBA, after all this stuff, would contribute more than 50% of the overall project. And like I said, if we make a few other tweaks here and we get those additional incentive points, could be more than 50%. And I think from where we were a year ago to where you are now is massive, right? So we talked about being in the mid to low 40s. Now you're at 50%. It puts us in a much better position to go to town meeting in a couple of months. So that's great work. So with that, a lot of numbers. I'm going to turn it back to Rich to talk about it and let you guys decide what you kind of want to do from here.
Well, one thing I do want to make a note on that, Jeff, was the town cost was 63 million. So that, with that, we're gonna get that same number from the state. So that's something to keep in consideration. When we did our do nothing option, I think that came in at 70 by the
It did.
yeah, that was basically, the option is, one of our, points going forward is we don't do anything. We go 70. We go ahead and we do this project. We partner with the MSBA. We can do it from 63. That math sounds pretty good to me. So that's my take on it. And like Jeff said, I mean, we all worked hard on trying to be as effective as possible. And, I think everyone did a good job on that. So were there any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, I think that what's important is to explain as we go forward how this number has gone from roughly 80 million, the town's share, to 63 million. I know it's got to be believable, and that's a big difference. And so there's a lot of detail in what we've been through and what the committee has done, particularly the working group. But we need headlines to make it clear to people that this is something that is a result of whatever specific efforts we've made. I'm not being as clear as it could be on this, but I mean, we've been out as recently as a month ago with a much higher number.
I know. So the question is, very good, Jim. You always hit it. So the question is, Jeff, I know the change in the gym, because some of that was not reimbursable. But the big thing is you went from 43% contribution to 50%. Are people going to buy that? Because they didn't buy the 43.
Well, I mean, they're going to give the real math back. I mean, you guys asked us to project that much earlier than we normally would do that, right? And so I built budgets that reflected all that, and I gave a range of what it really showed, and I made some conservative estimates. But the dropping the gym and, you know, working the new building down, tightening that up, it starts to help with those ratios. And so it's all inside baseball, but the numbers and the work that both we did and you guys did helped tighten that up overall and put it in a much better position than we were a year ago when we were looking at these options.
I think one other thing, Ellen, is that, you know, part of the history of, you know, with the Clyde Brown, due to the work from the previous team that worked on that, I mean, we came in under $4 million. I mean, we saved, so, you know, we have the ability to, you know, not only just build the project, but build the project and bring it in for the number or under the number. So that's another thing that,
That's more.
well, we won't say that we're gonna get more.
No, I
we
know,
said
but
we have a
that's
history of.
even another potential savings. But my question, Jeff, is why is the reimbursement rate 50%?
Jeff, so I think Jeff put a lead in earlier when he showed the cost estimate and it came in at $660 a square foot. The work to drive that number down got you closer to the MSBA's cap of $550 a square foot.
Right.
That's where it's at, right, Jeff? And so,
89, yeah. But yeah.
so the more you are above that, the more things that just get excluded or capped out. And so we've been trying to get as close to the 550 as we can, knowing that the MSBA doesn't set that number because it's real, but that's just how they equalize projects across the state. And so through the effort of Vertex and the engineers and the cost estimators and the entire team and this committee, we've been able to get that number closer to the 550, which gets you closer to a reality of the number that's stated in the reimbursement rate, like the difference between effective and the stated. So I'll let Jeff go from here because he's good at that. But I just wanted to highlight, you said you'd come back to that, and that's one of the leads
No,
there.
that's good.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, because it's an ad reno, you get points for being an ad reno, right? And like, you know, Chris tightened up the addition, right? So then the ratio of saving to building new got better, right? So that two things happened there, right? We took that extra square footage, it was ineligible, we got rid of it. And getting rid of it was all new construction, which was more expensive stuff. So we got rid of the more expensive construction and we tightened up the ratio there. And so that drove that up to 3 percentage points, right? Versus where I was at 2, I think I came at 2 back in February because I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. We didn't have the benefit of the feedback from the MSBA. And so I had to put in more scope that was ineligible back in February because I just didn't have the data. And the MSBA wouldn't throw us a lifeline.
Well, again, I'm not criticizing the work we've done, and I think we've done it the right way. I'm just trying to, at some point, we need to think about the 3 or 4 things we say to folks to convince them that what the work that has gone on has produced significant cost reductions and increased the strength of the argument that leaving the building alone is going to cost not the same, but more to the town than actually moving forward with the project, which is really the point. I mean, I'm just trying to anticipate once we get into, you know, some forums and that we have a bigger crowd, hopefully, and we start to hear some pushback on the cost. I want us to have headlines, and I know you guys are giving me good headlines, but they're not ones that the ordinary person is going to relate to, I guess. And maybe that's not for tonight, but as we think through how we present this, I feel like I'm giving this a negative spin. This is great news.
No, I think you
Great news.
You
We're
want
just
to
using your
convey
approach,
how
Jim.
you've
It always comes off negative from you, but we appreciate it.
you're trying to convey how you've been fiscally responsible. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
But financially responsible, and you're trying to spend the public's money as best you possibly can. So I think that you can put a positive twist on that with a little bit of thought.
Well,
Oops, all right, if there's any other comments or thoughts before we, because I was thinking if not, I was gonna make a motion to approve the budget at 127 million as a not to exceed.
Do you guys like 9 nines? Do you want to do 126, 900? Or do you want to do
Do
127?
127, the 999 thing, it's like the
That
gas
works.
station.
I don't want to do
Oh,
999.
yeah.
I said
No.
900, but yeah, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, just do 127.
All right.
So anyhow, I make a motion that we go ahead with the budget at 127 million not to exceed.
Second,
Okay, motion's been made and second. Diane,
aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so pass unanimously.
Rich, I feel like it's the 4 horse people. Where's everybody else?
The four horsemen.
Well, you know, sometimes you gotta get in and grind, and we're
Okay.
here to do it, so it's all good.
All right.
So congratulations, right? I mean,
Thank you.
light years of where we thought we were last June, right? That was really the meat of tonight's presentation, and you know, we don't really need a meeting next week because I had scheduled next week's meeting because I figured we were going to have numbers that would not look as favorable, and that we were going to really be grinding things out, you know, in a little different way, and so we were able to kind of stick with the overall number and tighten up a few things. And so I don't think we need an actual meeting next week. We still have our joint meeting with the school committee and the select board scheduled for the 25th of the month to present the recommendation of this committee, which is the $127 million number to that group. We've done the decisions that we have tonight, which is reviewed the cost estimate, reviewed the budget itself, and done the proprietary items. The next thing is next steps, right? So we can cancel next week's meeting. We can go to the meeting on the 25th. We should talk tonight about what that presentation looks like because it's to 2 other audiences and obviously televised and the people that are beyond that. And then we go to the road show, right, where a subset of this committee, you know, asks the design team and the OPM for a bunch of facts, right? And then you go to coffees around town and make information available. We'll have a couple more public forums that are hosted by this group as well with the consultants. And you start that information campaign. We'll go in front of capital improvements and FinCom and all the things that happen normally to lead to a town meeting in the fall. We'll submit the package on the 28th. And so when you have your joint meeting on the 25th, not only do we want to collect the 2 endorsement votes, your committee would need to vote for the draft of the report. So we're going to start working on that report now. We already are. Vertex and TAPE are working on that report. So we'll have a draft of that sent to you ahead of time, and we'll look for your authorization to submit that on your behalf. That goes into the state on the 28th. I will warn that they're very busy. They've put a lot of disclaimer emails out there. Chris, I got to forward you one today where it's like, sends it to every project that's in the pipeline. We're very busy. You have to make sure you dot every I and cross every T, or you risk getting rejected because we have a lot of work. So it's along those lines. So we're hopefully that's not us, and we send everything properly. Normally, I would say we get a call back in a couple of weeks to get the down and dirty meeting with the MSBA and know the final reimbursement. Because of that workload, it may drift into early October. So I just want to set expectations with this group. But some point by early October, we'll know the actual reimbursement number. It'll go back in front of the MSBA board the end of October, and then back in front of the town voters in the second week of November, which is when I think you've penciled in your fall town meeting. Any questions on the schedule before we talk about the joint meeting?
Yeah,
You want the select board and the school committee to vote to approve this on the 25th, right?
Vote to endorse this.
Endorse whatever it is. This
Yeah.
is now becomes the governing bodies, selected governing bodies have now endorsed what the committee proposed. And that's all we need to do to get the thing finalized in front of MSBA for them to consider, right?
That's right. And then this body would then authorize us to submit the report. So there's
Right.
your vote and their 2 endorsement votes. Basically, they're agreeing that it's the right recommendation to bring to town meeting.
And that's something we can accomplish all of those things on the 25th. That's the goal.
That is the goal.
Okay, good.
Jeff, question, please. Is it possible we could get money back or reimbursement rates and all the other stuff from MSBA before October?
Yeah, it's possible. You know, normally I would say we would, but
Right.
you know, or we would have that initial meeting, maybe not the final number back. I'm just a little leery because of the number of emails they've been sending out about their workload that it'll probably drift to the beginning of October. We'll have a meeting with them where we hash out everything I just reviewed with you. what's this? Is that really eligible? Is it not? You know, we got to take this out. That's not eligible. And they'll do a final version of that. They'll send it back to us for final comment. And then, you know, middle of October, that goes to their board. So by the middle of October, it's all packaged up and done. But somewhere between mid-September and mid-October, we're in that back and forth.
That does not give us much time to do any real promotion.
No, I mean, that doesn't stop us. I mean, we may not know the exact,
You're given the range, right? And that goes
Yeah.
back to that earlier chart from before, right? It's not,
Yeah.
now it's not 40 to 42. Now it's, you know, 48 to 50, right? Or 51, right? It's that range. The range is in a different spot. And, you know, as soon as we have that information back, we'll bring it back to the public, right? So there'll be an ongoing update. And we can certainly blast that out via listserv or other things that are available in town once
Yep.
we have the finality of it.
but thinking out loud, I mean, there's nothing to stop us, from starting you know, all the, work towards, you know, getting the positive outcome in the vote. We can start that as soon as we want. There's, you know, we have the information, we just don't have the finalized rate from the MSBA, but we know the range. So, you know, that's not, it shouldn't slow us down.
I agree with that, Rich. I think once the select board and the school committee vote to endorse, then the town has its proposal.
Yeah.
And we can go to the voters and start to tell them what we've got, with the subject matter being, you know, the contingency being the range of reimbursement. And
Correct.
if anybody's been paying attention, the range of reimbursement is much higher, so that's a good news. And for people who haven't been paying attention, the fact that basically we're looking at 50%, I don't want to oversimplify, 50% reimbursement, that's pretty good. What do we get for Clyde Brown?
Less than that. You were like you were in the high 30s or low 40s, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
So
part of it is kind of the before or after. Like it always looks worse at the beginning because you're carrying that $7 million in contingency. It's ineligible, which drives it down. When you do the final audit, you do a lot better. So you're going in with this 50-50, but the end result will be actually a lot better. But it's hard to message that and keep credibility, right? As everybody said on this call, right? You know, you're trying to explain the numbers in a very simple way. But really, of that $7 million, only $1 million of it is eligible, right? That's really one of the drivers that makes that not look like it's 50-50.
right.
That's all baked into the current 50-50 ratio. It'll be better than 50-50 at the end of the day.
Well, again, I mean, if I'm going to get a $120 million building for 60 million, I mean, that's oversimplified. I mean, that's a lot better than for 80 million.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
we have a
Jim, it's
very
20
credible,
million better.
we have a credible story to tell now.
Right.
well, it's
Very
And you
credible.
have legacy projects like the money you gave back on Clyde Brown, and you explained, that, you know, we've kept conservative contingencies, and just like we gave back 4 million or whatever the number was back then, there's 7 million parking lot there in the rainy day fund for tariffs and everything else that comes up along the way.
oh, please.
Hopefully not COVID too, you know, I don't want to go through another one of those, but that's the only time in my career I've ever actually dipped into those funds to that level, right? When you literally had a world pandemic.
Mm.
Otherwise, you'd never exceeded a budget before.
All right. So I think, was there anything else beyond that, Jeff?
Just really the format for the presentation, right? So what does the
yeah.
committee want to show to the other two committees? So it's, you know, the solution. So I think it's a design presentation. I think it's essentially the community forum that we gave back in June, or sorry, July, right? To the limited folks, but we gave a forum presentation of here's the options, here's the phasing, here's the final solution, and here's the cost. And it's that level of a presentation, you know, 20 minutes kind of a setup, and then let them do kind of Q&A.
Yeah, I would say that's what I would say. And then actually I'd, you know, kind of some of the front end stuff, I think we want to try to, you know, not dig too deep into that. I think the last time you did it, it was pretty quick. You know, we've already gone through all that stuff, and you know, I don't think we need to go backwards on it. I think we have to give enough information so people can understand, but I think it's more of, you know, here, this is where we are.
Agreed. By the way, Doug, you can drop off if you want. You don't need to stick
Jeff,
on
how
any-
much time do you think? I want to make sure Karen gives you enough time. What kind of time do you think you're gonna need?
Depends on how slow Chris talks. No, it's I think it's up to you guys. I mean, like they've all heard it before. Both bodies did. You know, we are pandering to the audience a little bit because it is televised, so we won't speed through it. But I think 20 minutes is you know 25 minutes is more than
Okay.
enough.
And you
the
may
board-
want to leave some time for debate.
Yeah, half an hour
Question,
anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, not that I'm prejudiced against A4D3 or whatever all these numbers were. Let's just give them what we're recommending rather than,
Yeah, you don't have to go back through
you don't need to go through all that stuff.
you don't have to go back through the A14 and why we picked it. Start where we are and,
Yeah, we can have that in the back pocket or whatever, if
Okay.
questions come up from the audience or from the boards.
I think on that, I think we need, like I said, I think we need a little Ellen, you know what I mean? I agree with you. We've all seen it before, but I think we have to have at least a little bit of background on it, just to kind of not say, hey, here it is. And, just so people understand that there was a lot of thinking put into this. If we come and say, here it is, vote on it, that kind of doesn't show the background work. So, all right. So Jeff, are we good?
Just looking back at your agenda. Yeah, I think you just have invoice and minutes, and then so I think we'll cancel next week's meeting. We'll all meet back together in person, right? Kim's arranged. Is it in 227? Is it, Kim?
29.
229. Yeah, so the selectmen's room there.
I have one question. Jeff, if everything goes according to plan, Craig couldn't come tonight and he wants this. If everything goes and this gets passed, and do you have any kind of construction timeline at all? At
Yeah,
this point?
so it'll take we'll pass the funding vote in November and December. It's about a year of design, so we'd break ground the following winter of 2027 to 26 to 27. And then it was 32 months. We had that on the forum presentation. I can give you the specifics. Just give me a minute.
32 months from when?
Breaking ground.
Yeah, it is.
Breaking ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to the last forum. I don't want to misquote myself.
But that's like complete, total project complete, because there's other phases of move in and switching.
No,
and
I know. We're
so-
just trying to figure out when the tax will hit the people.
Yeah, so we were breaking ground in March of 27, and then doing 28 months of kind of construction and the demo. So March of 27 through the summer of 29.
Okay,
And so yeah, it'd be band borrowing up until summer of 29, and then you do the long-term borrowing at that point.
something like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that's good. I thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Chris and the gang for attending. And I assume you don't want to sit here and watch us pay bills.
We just need to approve the minutes, but they don't need to do that either from.
Okay.
school building.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Good night. All right. Kim, do you want to?
Yep, the minutes were from July 9th.
All right. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 9th as written.
Second,
All right. Motion soon made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Bye.
Passed unanimously.
So we
Next.
don't have any invoices for school building, so we could probably adjourn this meeting and
We'll do school.
do permanent building committee because we have an invoice for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. So,
Hi, everybody.
well, no, we don't have to leave.
We need you, Diane.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I make a motion to adjourn the school building committee.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So I make a motion to open the permanent building committee meeting for August 13th.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
aye.
All right. I'm getting tired. That's why we're doing this, because I'm getting ready to go to bed. Anyhow, so we have a bill for the work that was done on the Lansing Millis building. So far they've worked on all the overhangs, they've rebuilt all those, rebuilt the roof edges, they've power washed it, done some shingling on the side, they've done some actually did some additional work that they took care of for us, where they had the illegally installed vestibule that was removed. And there was a ramp that was there that was also added at the same time. So that's gone. So the building now is back to looks pretty much like it did in the 70s, which looks a lot better. You get rid of that eyesore in the front. And so they're looking for a progress payment for work done to date.
So I can put that up if it's
Yep.
helpful. Yeah, so the current payment is down here.
Yep. So the current payment right now, and I looked at all the time slips of all the work that was done. The current payment for right now is $87,305. So I make a motion that we approve the payment of $87,305 to Aquamarines. Yep.
Second,
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Diane,
yeah, aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Al.
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye, so motion passed unanimously.
All right, I think we're good.
All right, yeah, so we're good. We don't, so we have the meeting on the 25th. What, do we have a permanent building committee meeting scheduled? Just, we should, just so we have one, do we have one scheduled for the next?
We don't, we usually end up just tacking on to the end of
Okay.
our school building committee, so we can see what our next, maybe see what our next meeting is after the August 25th. We have it scheduled, I just don't have it handy.
Okay, all right. All right, sounds good. Well, with that, unless there's anything else, I may make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All
We're
right,
out of
motion,
here.
motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good night, everybody.
Well,
Good night.
Rich, you know,
Yes.
we had fewer people that spent more money tonight than we ever spent. So up till now.
Well, and the thing was, I was out in the sun all day at 90 degrees,
Oh, geez.
baking in the sun. So I'm ready to go to bed right
Ready to
now.
go to bed.
Yeah.
Good
All right.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.